Good afternoon. I'm Varun Sivaram. I work for Secretary John Kerry, President Biden's Special Presidential Envoy for Climate. I'm his Managing Director for Clean Energy and Innovation. And it's really my pleasure to introduce one of our community's most influential role models, serving at the highest level of President Biden's White House. Over her career, Neera Tanden has served 3 presidential administrations. She served in the Clinton White House, and she served President Obama and was an architect of the landmark Affordable Care Act and a driving force for why it got passed through Congress. She's also served several Democratic presidential campaigns and was a top advisor to the Hillary Clinton campaigns, including winning the Democratic nomination in 2016. Neera played a central role in founding the Center for American Progress, and she served as its CEO, making CAP the most influential liberal think tank, and she's long been a leader in the Democratic Party and in our own community. Speaking personally, it's extraordinary to see someone in our community do so well, and it's inspiring for those of us serving in the administration. Her confirmation battle when she was nominated to lead OMB taught us how important it is for us to organize, to support nominees from our own community. And thankfully, Neera's landed an even more powerful and influential position in the Biden White House. As the senior advisor and staff secretary to President Biden, Neera is responsible for managing the president's decision-making on the most important issues of our time. But maybe most importantly, I'll close here, Neera was a founding member of Indiaspora 10 years ago. So delighted to introduce Neera Tanden.
Thank you. It's also wonderful to be here with current and future leaders. So I'm really honored to be with this wonderful group and to just speak a few words about what it's like to be in government today. I'm really looking forward to our Q&A. But most critically, I'd say there's an expression in politics, which is, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And what that means is, essentially, decisions are made by the people sitting around the table, and they are made at the expense of outsiders or not at the expense of outsiders. And my experience working in the Biden White House, in the Obama White House, and in the Clinton White House is I see the decisions the president makes, I see the decisions the chief of staff make, I see the decisions a lot of our cabinet secretaries make, and who is at the table advising is so fundamentally important to what decisions get made. That is why I am proud to be the highest-ranking Indian American in the Biden White House. Of course, I'm a little outranked. I'm staff. I'm a little outranked by the VP, who just the other day, I was walking across West Exec, and the Vice President Kamala was coming across. And she stopped me and said, you know, we're having Diwali in a couple of weeks, and I need your best ideas of how to make it the best party ever. So it does matter who's at the table. Most critically, I mentioned this morning, but I really want to say again here that the decisions that are made by the White House, I'm proud to serve in the Biden-Harris administration, but I don't really want to make this partisan. I know the decisions on immigration, education, healthcare, technology, business affect all of us, and it's vital that we have leaders there. I'm proud to be a representative of the community, but I'm even more proud that there are so many Indian Americans in the administration, that I am not a lone voice, and that I am hopeful over the years to come, we'll have people in this room at those tables leading, representing, and really being a voice for all of us. Because, again, decisions are going to get made with or without us, and one of the reasons why Indiaspora is so important is that there's a recognition in this community that we have to have a seat at the table, we deserve a seat at the table, we have worked for that seat at the table, and it's time that we have not one, but many seats at that table. So I'm really looking forward to the questions. I always learn a lot from everyone in this room, but I really look forward to your questions now. Oh, I'll keep the mic. Okay. You'd think I know how to do this at this point, but.
All right. I don't know if you hear this mic, but let's go ahead. Would you like to take a seat here?
Yeah, sure. Here, maybe that one will work.
Thanks.
Oh, great.
That's perfect. Let's go ahead and take, I think we have about 12 minutes, so please do raise your hands if you'd like to ask a question. And while folks think about their questions, I'm gonna take the privilege and ask the first one, if that's okay.
After you, I'll call on people if you don't have questions.
And I actually see a hand back there. If you just want to go ahead and start, go ahead.
No, I'll wait for your question
All right.
and then ask mine.
So Neera, you are, as the highest-ranking Indian American on President Biden's staff, you have this unique visibility into all of the decision-making documents the president sees. Can you just give us an inside view into how a president makes a major decision, what that process looks like?
Yeah, so there's a range of decisions. So I oversee the decisions the president makes across domestic, economic, and national security policy. So, there's big decisions like what we were going to do in Ukraine if before the Russian invasion. That took a series of meetings. There were lots of memos, a series of meetings, gaming out a variety of possibilities, whether the Russians would have a full invasion, whether the Russians would do partial invasion. I'm really proud of the fact that American intelligence was 100% accurate, that the Russians were planning to invade, and there are a series of meetings that the president called. So, that is kind of a major decision where there's materials. I work with the policy teams to determine what kind of materials, who should be in the meetings, what is the right structure, and then there can be decisions the president is making on personnel or what position we're taking on legislation, and he can handle a lot of those decisions by paper. So I think, but I will say, I see how decisions get made, and it really, as I said, it really matters who has the pen, who is the person, who are the people, and what experiences they have. I've learned, in maybe 25 years of public policy, that is one lesson I've always learned. The people's experience who are guiding the president, as well as the president's own experience, is so central to whether, you'll go one direction or another. And so that's why, I think it's important that there are so many more voices, more diverse voices at the table.
That's terrific. Thank you, Neera. Let's go to the woman in the back who had a hand up. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for doing what you do, by the way, inspiring everybody. I have the pleasure of sitting at the table with the only under 16 speaker in the Indiaspora Forum today, this young lady here. So my question is for her. How do you inspire this model minority of doctors, lawyers, engineers to say a career in politics is not just okay but desirable?
Yeah, I mean, let me say this. I think one of the hardest things is that politics today seems so ugly, right? It seems so partisan and polarizing, and sometimes we have even violence. And I'll just say for myself, I think that sometimes is a strategy to make sure people stay away from politics and don't care about politics and just try to turn away from it. But the truth is, You mentioned my work on the Affordable Care Act. That was a very polarizing debate to work on the Affordable Care Act. But I had this experience 2 years ago, and I think it's something I've carried with me, which is during the Trump administration, the Center for American Progress, an organization I led, oversaw, really helped design the strategy to protect the Affordable Care Act when President Trump tried to repeal it. And so we organized rallies and events and worked with legislators. We did a lot of work with Republican senators like McCain and Murkowski to organize support for the ACA. And I was at a rally, during the heat of the battle. And, there was thousands of people at this rally. I spoke and I came off the stage. And this older gentleman, he looked like he was, 55 or 60, kind of hard scrabble, came up to me and said, "Can I talk to you?" And I said, "Of course." And then he started unbuttoning his shirt, which I have to say is a little bit odd. That did not happen to me that often at rallies. But he started unbuttoning his shirt and he said, "I just want to show you something." And he showed me a scar over his heart. And he said, "I had never had health insurance in my whole life. And then the Affordable Care Act got passed. And I went to the doctor for the first time. And when I went to that doctor, he told me that I was going to die if I did not have heart surgery. And because of the ACA, I got the heart surgery and I'm alive today. And so I drove 4 hours to come to this rally to show, to ensure my support because I want this law to save other people's lives." And so I would say to people who are interested, who are shying away from politics, that politics is ultimately about making choices to help people. That is what it should be about. That is what it is about at its best moments. I feel incredibly privileged to have worked on laws that have helped people, let alone save their lives. And though lots of the discourse makes politics seem really ugly, at its best, it is doing that thing, which I'm incredibly proud. I will go to my grandchildren and tell them about that. And I can tell you, working on the Affordable Care Act was not that much fun all of the time, but it was hard. It was a tough slog. It took a year. They told us it would take 4 months. It took a year, but that is on the books today. It survived the Trump administration, and I have that man's story that I can always carry with me.
It's an incredible story, Neera. I see 2 hands, one right here in the front, 3 actually, so we'll do right here in the front, then in the middle, and then all the way in the back, the gentleman over there. Go ahead.
Hello. Thank you, Neera. Just curious, with the evolution of India, do you see a marked, significant change in the perception of how India is seen within the White House? And in your mind, do you see the golden era of the US-India relationship ahead of us or behind us?
Yeah, I will say the Biden administration, and I hear this from, I would love other people's views. We feel like we have an incredibly strong relationship with India. Our sense, in my conversations with Indian leaders, they also feel that it is an incredibly strong government-to-government relationship. Strong. Now, I think a lot of that strength comes from the neighborhood, how China is acting, how Russia is acting. I think it is, I would say President Biden has invested an incredible amount of time and energy into his relationship with Modi and the leadership. The president has met with the prime minister more than almost any other member, any other leader. He's had multiple meetings with European leaders and with calls with Zelensky, but really of leaders in the world, they've developed a very close and I'd say personal relationships. So I hope it is the golden days are ahead of us, because there's, I do think we believe that as it's almost trite to say, but the oldest and largest democracy have so much in front of them.
We have a hard stop in 3 minutes, so I'm going to ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll stop filibustering.
No. So I'm going to ask the next 2 questions and we have one more here. Let's just take the next 3, and then Neera, can I give you the final word?
Yeah.
Please go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so I have 2 grown daughters who were born in the US. And what I would really, really want them to achieve in their lifetime is to be part of a democracy. We nearly lost it last year. What can we do as part of in diaspora or otherwise on an individual basis to make sure that we continue to have a democracy in this country?
Thank you. And then in the back.
I'm Tanden. I'm a huge fan. Just wanted to say that. But I just wanted to ask. I feel like a lot of us are here for many reasons, but I think talking about philanthropy as we have been, philanthropy ends up being pretty adjacent to what you were saying politics is at the end of the day, where it's the benefit of the many versus the gain of a few. What are you doing in the Biden administration to sort of carry out these principles of being more philanthropic, giving back, and more than just like essentially giving to the GDP, but like giving back on a more philanthropic basis as part of the Biden administration?
And then super quick, 10 seconds, go ahead.
Building on the first question, how do the majority of us in this room who are not doing government full-time do our civic duty to make sure our voices are part of the room that's being heard and the issues we care about?
Who asked that? Okay, great. So I'll try to answer the first and third together. So I guess I would say there are many, many ways to be involved, but I would counsel people to think through candidates and issues that they really care about instead of, I think it's important to donate, I think it's important it's obviously important to vote, but I think, with the brain power and energy of folks in this room, it's also important to think through candidates and issues and topics that you care deeply about. There are ballot measures that are important, and really get kind of close into those issues. There are so many candidates, campaigns, issues, ballot initiatives where they really need people who are committed and engaged. And I'd say when you're enthusiastic about a candidate or a cause, you can bring 30 people or 50 people or 100 people. So for people who care about our democracy, what we need is more people who are organizers, who are people who are going to be committed and act not just once, but all throughout campaigns. It's important and vital for people to donate. It's important and vital to be engaged with members, but it is really critical to have people participate, advise, guide young candidates, new candidates, diverse candidates, and causes and issues. And, I will say, the president says this, and I'll try and maybe end it with this. We really are in a battle for the soul of the nation. The president ran for election based on this, but it is the case, and I'll say, unfortunately, that battle continues. It's not just that we had it and we won, like the president won in 2020 and sort of anger of politics has declined. It's still there, and the only answer to that is more people being engaged, more people being involved, more people trying to get young people to run for office or be in government. It's the only thing that will solve the sort of crisis of democracy we're in right now is a numbers game of more people who love democracy than people who are willing to tear it apart. That is just where our country is. Although I sort of hate to say it, And that's why in rooms like this, it's really important that everyone stay engaged.
Neera, thank you for your service, your leadership, and for being a role model. We give a round of applause.
Thank you. Well, we have great leaders